Trevor here, reflecting on life through music. Welcome and thank you for stopping by. Well, I trust you enjoyed my last commentary on the From Out of Nowhere album from 2019 and the Jeff Lynne album, and literally that's what it felt like because nobody knew this album was coming, and when he did release it, it was really, really cool that he released this other album. And we have his continuing legacy to the world. Now, I've got a bit of a story here. You might be wondering why I'm recording from the piano. Well, this is take 2 of the first part of that video because in my original attempt, I just played a little bit of one of Jeff's long songs just as a bit of a tribute to him. And within 1 to 2 minutes of me uploading the video, I got a very gentle copyright restriction notice. They didn't take my video down, but they just put a very gentle copyright restriction on it because the melody, which I think must have been a bit obvious in my first attempt, is copyrighted. And so I thought, well, fair enough. You know, people need to protect their intellectual property. And so what I'm doing is I'm just re-recording this first part with something else. When I look back at Jeff Lynne's legacy, I suppose, in my own life, it is quite inspired, and I suppose it has influenced me to a great deal. I like the concept of the magic in his songs. I like the concept of the beauty in his songs. And I just like the way that he writes music. It has inspired me very, very much indeed. And I suppose for any person out there who has found success, to know that they have inspired others must be a nice thing to hear. So, Jeff, if you are watching this video, and as I've shared in the last 13 videos, thank you for what you've brought to this world. You have been inspiration to many, and your songs are timeless. So I suppose before I go on, here's just a little bit of one of my own songs. It's a song that you hear when in the opening little video title that I do. So I trust you'll just enjoy it. Well, as I said at the start of this video, this is the end of this mini-series on the Electric Light Orchestra, but obviously not the end of the ELO story, because Jeff is still performing, and if he could be performing, he would be performing. But we learned through this series that, you know, in 1970, Roy Wood and Jeff Lynne and Bev Bevan got together, and they sort of decided, well, what would have happened if the Beatles had kept going? And so in 1970, ELO were formed. And then in 1971, we had that first album, Electric Light Orchestra, and the breakthrough song for them, the 10583 Overture, which of course was not just a revolutionary song for ELO, but for the world in general. We then went to 73, where there were 2 albums released, ELO 2 and On the Third Day. In 1974, we had the El Dorado album, and we started to see what could be done with the strings in the ELO sound. In 1975, we had Face the Music. In 1976, we had the absolute breakthrough album, A New World Record, which included Living Thing and Telephone Line and Tightrope, and just so many classic songs which Jeff performs even still today. In 1977, we had the double album Out of the Blue, and again, an absolutely huge album for ELO. Turn to Stone, Sweet Talking Woman, Wild West Hero, some incredible songs from that album. 1978, we had the World Tour, which included the Big Giant Spaceship and also the 7 sold-out nights at Wembley Stadium, which had never been done up until that point. In 1979, we had the release of Discovery, which had Shine a Little Love and Don't Bring Me Down and a few other songs. Very much a disco influence in that album. In 1980, we saw him writing half the soundtrack to the Xanadu movie, and we started to see that keyboards were starting to become influential in the ELO sound. And I said at the time that I believed that All Over the World was a real transition song for Jeff Lynne and his songwriting, because we saw orchestra and electronic happening together so beautifully. We then had the Revolutionary Time album in 1981, and of course I talked about the song Twilight, and also Don't Hold On Tight to Your Dreams. In 1983, we saw the release of Secret Messages, and my favourite song, pretty well of all time, being Bluebird off that album. In 1986, we saw the release of Balance of Power. And at that point, Jeff was saying that pretty well he and ELO, there was not much more he wanted to do with the sound. And so in essence, he parked it and he went on to other things, including production for people like George Harrison and Tom Petty. In the late 80s, we saw the Travelling Wilburys with Bob Dylan, George Harrison, Tom Petty, Jeff Lynne, Roy Orbison. That's the 5 of them. And they produced a couple of really, really good songs, Handled with Care off the first album, and later End of the Line off their second album. He released a solo album in 1991, Armchair Theatre, which has some really good songs in it. He was involved in the production when the Beatles reformed with Free as a Bird. He engineered and produced that song for them. He did release an album in 2001, Zoom. A couple of good songs off that album, including State of Mind and Moment in Paradise. And we had him performing live for the first time for 15 years, which is fantastic. He then went on, particularly after 2010, he started performing again. He received the Hollywood Walk of Fame, and he also received acknowledgement in Birmingham on the Hall of Stars over there. And in 2014, he reformed ELO with a new band and performed to 50,000 people in Hyde Park. And then in 2015, he released a new album after 14 years, Alone in the Universe. And the song of that one, When I Was a Boy, was very much an autobiographical account of his career. He performed at places like the Hollywood Bowl, went back to Wembley Stadium, and then in 2019, to the complete surprise of everybody, he came out with his 2019 release, From Out of Nowhere. And so over a period of what has been 50 years, he has produced some absolutely magical songs. So many songs I've lost count. And of course, in 2017, ELO was inducted into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. Very well deserving, with himself and Roy Wood, Bev Bevan, and Richard Tandy, who of course has been a long-standing keyboard player with ELO and has been there pretty much from the start. So a stellar career for Jeff. And I suppose for me as an ELO fan, what I have witnessed with this incredible musical journey is he has brought, in his own very, very humble way, magic into this world. He's brought joy to millions and millions of people. He has brought happiness. He has brought the wonder of his musical talent and musical genius to the world in a way that audiences have resonated with him. So the story is an amazing one, it's a rich one, and it's an incredible one. And I suppose if anything, the story tells us that we as human beings deserve dreams. Because we never know where they're going to go, really. We never know what flight they're going to take. But we all deserve dreams. We all deserve something that we can strive towards, something that we can actually aim towards, something that we can just gradually chip away at one day at a time. Because if we're not fulfilling our dreams, because there's only one of us, we are unique and original in this world, and if we're not doing what we know about ourselves at the time, the world's missing out, because you're the only one that can bring what you can bring to this world. I think if the ELO story tells us anything at all, it tells us that we can make a difference. It may not be a worldwide difference like Jeff has done, but in our own small part of the world, we can make a positive difference and leave a legacy which starts today and will continue on as we leave our mark on this world. So I trust this ELO story has been an encouragement to you. I've really appreciated bringing it to you. With the so many songs that I've brought in, because it's very hard to just look at an album and think of one song. There's been a couple often that I've brought to these videos. But what I'm going to leave you with today, just I suppose as a bit of an epilogue to this story, is just Jeff with his mate Richard in his home, and the two of them just performing just the classic song Strange Magic. Because as I have said many times through the ELO story, there is magic in what Jeff has done, and magic in the music that he's brought to this world. So I'm going to leave you with this very simple performance with Jeff singing and his mate Richard playing piano for him, and the song Strange Magic. So the link to that particular performance is below. And if you want to recap also on my last video, which was the song From Out of Nowhere from 2019, feel free to look at that one as well. So that's it for me for the ELO story. This series will continue as we go on to other artists next time. But for now, I'll catch you around. And if you like this video, feel free to give it the thumbs up and subscribe to this channel. That would be fantastic. Videos get put up about 2 to 3 times a week. So until next time, I'll catch you around.